Set 28 CDM Technical question and answers. Answers are highlighted in green. Question 1. Data entry and validation in EDC systems. A clinical trial site enters patient data into an electronic data capture EDC system. During a routine review, the data manager notices that some subjects have missing vital signs data. What is the best course of action? Option A, delete the entire patient record and ask the site to re-enter it. No, you cannot delete any kind of patient record, and you can't ask to re-enter it. So this is not the right answer. Option C, assume the missing data is not important and proceed with analysis. Missing data is always important. It's not that you cannot assume that it is not important, right? So this is not the right answer. Option D, manually enter estimated values based on similar patient profiles. You cannot do any kind of manipulation. Now, this is something like you are estimating some value for the missing data based on the similar kind of patient profile. So, that is nothing but playing with data and doing the manipulation. So, this is absolutely not allowed in the clinical trials. So the correct answer is B, issue a query in the EDC system and request site clarification. So the correct answer is B. Question 2, source data verification SDV challenges. During source data verification, the monitor identifies a discrepancy where a patient's reported weight in the EDC system is 75 kg, but the source document shows 85 kg. How should the discrepancy be resolved? Option A, update the EDC data to match the source document without notifying the site. Well, any changes that you are doing, especially in the data, whenever you are entering or doing any updates in these EDC system, you always have to ensure that you need to notify the site. So without notifying any site person, you cannot make any changes or any updates, right? So this is not the right answer. Option C, ignore the discrepancy if the difference is less than 15%. Well, such kind of discrepancies cannot be ignored because the patient's actual reported weight was 75, but the source document is showing 85 kg, which is around 10 kg difference, right? So such kind of discrepancy should not be allowed and it cannot be ignored. So this is not the right answer. Remove the patient from the study due to inconsistent data. Just because there is a discrepancy in the actual collected weight and the source document is showing different, just for some minor issues or for minor reasons, you cannot actually remove the entire patient from the study. So this is some kind of illogical kind of a reason to remove a patient just based on this kind of scenario. So this is not the right answer. So the correct answer is issue a data query in the EDC system and request the site correction or confirmation. So the correct answer is B. Question 3. Adverse event AE reconciliation. A serious adverse event SAE was reported by the investigator in the EDC system but is missing from the safety database. What should the data management team do? Option A, wait for the site to notice and update the safety database later. Now, if the management team is going to wait for the site to notice and then they will update the database, so this is not the correct logical reason for doing it. Now, say for example, the site does not notice until the database lock happens. So, is the data management team going to wait till the database lock? No, you cannot make such kind of scenarios. So the option B says re-enter the SAE manually into the safety database without site confirmation. No, serious adverse event is a very sensitive kind of event which has occurred to the particular patient, right? So such kind of information you cannot enter it manually into the database without the site confirmation. Even if you are entering manually into the safety database, you have to ensure that you inform the site. The site confirmation and the site reconciliation, it always needs to be done wherever there is an AE or an SAE event that has occurred. So this is not the right answer. Option D, remove the SAE from the EDC system to avoid inconsistencies. Now, SAE is very important because any clinical trial that is conducted, the first objective is to ensure that how safe is that specific medicine, right? So the concern is of the safety. Now, if that safety is not even considered that parameter, and you're removing this serious adverse event because due to that safety factor, so that is not the right answer. So this is not the right answer. So you cannot remove the SAE from the EDC system just to avoid inconsistencies, right? So the correct answer is perform an AE or SAE reconciliation and is issue queries as needed. So the correct answer is C. Question 4. Data lock and database freezing. A sponsor is preparing for database lock, but an external lab vendor has not yet submitted final laboratory data. What should the data management do? Option A. Proceed with database lock without waiting for lab data. Now you cannot proceed with the database lock formally or officially because the external data and the internal data, all the data should be entered in the database. It should be reviewed, it should be cleaned, it should be validated, and only then you can proceed for the database lock. So this is not the right answer. Option B, lock only the clinical data while waiting for the lab data separately. No, the database lock happens for both types of data, the internal data and the external data. External data are those which are lab data or the MRI data which comes from the diagnostic labs, kind of institutes. So you cannot do separate locking, that you will lock the internal and the external data you will not lock. No, that is not the right and the ethical reason. So this is not the right answer. Enter estimated lab values to ensure timely database lock. No, this is also not the right answer. You cannot enter those kind of lab values because the external lab vendor has not yet submitted the data. So what are you going to enter those estimated values? So you cannot estimate or you cannot visualize some value and you can enter into the database. That is something kind of a manipulation with the lab data. So that is not possible. So the correct answer is delay database lock and communicate with stakeholders for resolution. So the correct answer is C. Question 5. Handling duplicate subject entries. During a routine audit, the data manager notices that a subject appears twice in the database with different subject IDs but identical demographic details. How should this issue be handled? Option A, delete one of the records without informing the site. Like I said earlier, whatever you are doing any changes in the database, you also have to take the consent or confirmation from the site. You have to first inform them, you have to explain them, and unless and until you get the confirmation from the site representative, you cannot update, delete, ignore, or do any kind of manipulation in the database. So this is not the right answer. Ignore the issue assuming the sponsor will handle it later. No, sponsor is only going to review your data. It's going to review the interpretation and the results. So if you're having duplicate records, but obvious, the message for the analysis and the interpretation might go wrong, so you cannot ignore such kind of duplicate records. So this is not the right answer. Manually merge the records into a single entry. Like I said earlier, manipulation, kind of manually doing any changes into the database, that is absolutely not allowed and unethical practices. So this is not the right answer. So the correct answer is B, issue a query to the site to confirm whether this is a duplicate entry. So the correct answer is B. Question 6. Data anonymization for regulatory submission. A regulatory agency requires de-identified patient data for submission. What is the most appropriate step for data anonymization? Option A, replace patient names and ID numbers with generic placeholders. No, you cannot replace, especially the patient names are not allowed in the clinical trial database, right? So replacing them, the question does not come. Option B, randomly alter age, gender and race information for each patient. No, you cannot make any such kind of alterations, manipulations or updations manually. So that is not possible. Option D, encrypt all patient data making it unreadable to external viewers. No, even you cannot do this. You have to make those patients' data readable, right? Just because you can't make unreadable, so what is the data, it will not be able to see into the external viewers, right? So the correct answer is remove all personally identifiable information PII while ensuring data integrity. So the correct answer is C. Question 7. Handling protocol deviations in data management. A site administers an investigational product outside the protocol defined time window for multiple patients. What should the data management team do? Option A, delete the affected data to maintain protocol compliance. No, you cannot delete such kind of data. Ignore the deviations unless the sponsor specifically requests actions. No, such kind of protocol deviations, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be ignored. Option D, modify the protocol to include the deviations. Now, you cannot modify the protocol like, reactively, just to modify or to include these deviations. So this is not at all possible. So the correct answer is issue queries and document protocol deviations in the clinical trial database. So the correct answer is B. Question 8. Randomization and treatment unblinding. A blinded study is in progress and a data manager accidentally sees the treatment assignment for a subject. What is the correct action? Option A. Inform the principal investigator and request immediate subject removal. No, you cannot remove that subject unless and until you have discussed with the sponsor and unless until you have discussed with the ethics committee. Ignore it since the data manager does not interact with subjects. No, you cannot ignore such kind of data. You need to discuss with the sponsor. Share the information with only the biostatistics team for analysis purpose. Now you cannot share all these kind of information, so the correct answer is report the incident as an unblinding event and follow whatever the sponsor procedures they tell you to perform. So the correct answer is B. Question 9. Missing data in primary endpoint analysis. A phase 3 study analyzing blood pressure reduction has missing follow-up data for 10 patients in the primary endpoint. What should the data management team do? Option A, exclude the patients from analysis since the data is incomplete. Now, missing data will always be there somewhat or the other, in some way or the other, in some way or the other, in any of the variables or the parameters. It could be even primary and secondary or exploratory analysis. That does not mean that you completely remove that entire patient from the study. So that is not ethically and logically possible. So this is not the right answer. Replace missing values with the average of available data. Now there is no thumb rule that you have to replace the missing value with the average of the data. So there is no such kind of thumb rule in the whatever the clinical trial thumb rule, where you have to replace this. So that is not the right answer. Recollect the data from patients if possible. Now this is not possible, those data which is missing, it is missing. Say for example the blood pressure. Now the blood pressure collected at that specific date and at that specific time was different then as compared to some other date and at some other time. So such kind of sensitive primary analysis endpoint where it is considered, the possibility of recollecting the data is next to impossible. So this is not the right answer. So the correct answer is perform an imputation method like last observation carried forward LOCF for multiple imputation. So the correct answer is B. Question 10. Data integrity and audit trails. During a regulatory audit, the auditor requests a change history for a critical efficacy variable. What is the best way to provide this information? Provide a summary of the final dataset without showing prior changes. No. Modify the dataset to remove unnecessary changes before submission. Now you cannot make any kind of changes or modify. So this is not the right answer. Explain that audit trails are not maintained for efficiency reasons. Now the auditor is requesting a change history for the critical efficacy variable. So you cannot say that the audit trails are not available or they are not maintained, because here we are considering the critical efficacy variable. So this is not the right answer. So the correct answer is generate an audit trail report from the EDC system to show all modifications. The correct answer is B. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment mentioning any topic that you want me to make a video. Looking forward for a positive response. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment. Many thanks for your support and having great connection.